I still remember the day everything changed. It began with one simple sentence from my mother-in-law. She looked at me with a calm face and said, "A good wife stays at home. Why do you need a job?" Her words were soft, but they cut deep inside me. I didn't know what to say. I just whispered, "I like working. It makes me feel confident." She shook her head slowly, as if she already knew the right answer and I had given the wrong one. That moment stayed in my mind for a long time, but I didn't realize it was the beginning of a bigger storm. A storm that would test my patience, my marriage, and my self-worth. My name is Mira. I am 29 years old, and I love my job. I work as a customer support assistant in an international logistics company. Most days, I speak simple English with clients from different countries. Phrases like, "How can I help you today?" "Please give me a moment." "Thank you for your patience." These small sentences have become a part of my daily rhythm. When I married my husband, Ryan, last year, I imagined a peaceful home. He was kind, gentle, and very understanding. His smile always made me feel safe. But after our wedding, I moved into his family home, and things slowly became different. Our mornings usually began quietly. I would wake up at 6:30 a.m., stretch my arms, and step into the small kitchen. The sunlight came through the window, soft and warm. My mother-in-law, Lata, was usually there before me, making tea. The kettle would whistle. The smell of ginger and cardamom filled the room. It was a peaceful start. At least, it looked peaceful. But between us, there was always a silent distance. "Good morning, Amma," I would say gently. She would nod without looking up. "Morning." Sometimes her voice was warm. Sometimes it was cold. I never knew which version of her I would meet. I tried my best to make things comfortable. I helped in the kitchen, cleaned the balcony, folded the laundry, and prepared breakfast when I could. But every morning at 8:30 a.m., I would grab my office bag and say, "I'm leaving now." And every time, without fail, I felt her eyes on me. That quiet, judging look. Like my leaving the house was wrong. Like working was wrong. Like I was wrong. Ryan always told me, "Don't worry, Amma will understand someday." He said it with hope, but not certainty. Some nights after dinner, we would sit on the sofa together. He would put his arm around me and ask, "How was work?" I would smile. "It was good. I solved a big issue today." My manager said, "Good job, Mira." It felt nice. He would squeeze my hand gently. "I'm proud of you." But sometimes while we talked, I noticed Amma standing near the hall entrance, not saying anything, just listening, her face unreadable. And when she returned to her room, she would close the door with a soft but heavy sound. 2 weeks after hearing her say, "A good wife stays at home," her feelings became clearer. It started with small comments. One afternoon, when I returned from work, she looked at me and said, "You look tired. Maybe working is too much for you." I smiled politely. "I'm fine, Amma. Really." The next day, she sighed loudly while washing dishes. "You rush so much in the morning. The house feels empty after you leave." Another day, she said, "Women in our family never worked outside. They stayed home and took care of everything." Her tone wasn't angry. It was calm, almost gentle. But her words pushed a quiet pressure onto my chest. Still, I tried to stay positive. Maybe she would adjust. Maybe she would understand. But something inside me knew the problem was not going away. In fact, it was growing. One Sunday morning, the first real tension appeared. I was making breakfast, simple dosa and chutney. The pan sizzled softly. I was humming a small tune. Amma walked in and watched me for a moment. Then she said, "Mira, you are good with housework. You don't need a job." I froze. Her tone was casual, like she was giving friendly advice. I turned slowly and said, "Amma, I like working. It gives me confidence, and I want to support the family too." She frowned. "Support? Ryan earns enough. You should focus on the home." I breathed in deeply. I can do both. I just need some balance. She shook her head with a sad expression. "Working women don't make good wives, Mira. They forget the home. They forget respect. They forget their duty." Her words hit me like small stones. I felt something press behind my eyes, but I controlled my tears. I gently said, "I haven't forgotten anything, Amma." She simply whispered, "We'll see," and walked away. That day, I felt something shift inside me. It was the first time I realized she didn't just prefer a stay-at-home daughter-in-law. She wanted it, expected it, believed it was the only correct way. And I was standing on the opposite side of her belief. That was the beginning of the real conflict. A slow, quiet battle between who she wanted me to be and who I truly was. And I had no idea how big this battle would become. The change didn't happen suddenly. It came quietly, like small drops of rain before a storm. At first, I didn't even notice it. But days later, when I looked back, I realized the clues were there. Soft, subtle, but very real. One Monday evening, after a long day at work, I came home feeling excited. My manager had praised me in front of the team. He had said, "Mira handled a difficult client very well. Excellent communication skills." It warmed my heart. Moments like that made me feel proud. When I stepped into the house, I saw Amma in the living room, folding clothes. She looked tired, so I smiled and said, "Amma, let me help you." She didn't smile back. Instead, she said, "It's okay. You must be very tired after your office work." Her tone was gentle, but there was something else inside it. Something heavy. I couldn't understand it at first. I sat next to her and said softly, "It wasn't too tiring today." She didn't respond. She just continued folding clothes in silence. For the first time, the silence between us felt different. Not just quiet, cold. A few days later, another small clue came. It was a Thursday morning. I was packing my lunch for work. Ryan had already left, and Amma was wiping the dining table. I picked up my bag and said, "Amma, I'll be back by 6:30 today." She didn't look up. She just said, But then, almost immediately, she added, "If you come home early, you can help with dinner." I nodded. "Of course. I'll help." But her tone made it sound like it wasn't a request. It was a test. When I walked out the door, I felt her eyes on my back again. That same silent judgment. And for the first time, it stung a little more deeply. The third clue was something I couldn't ignore. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Ryan was out buying groceries. I was in the bedroom, organizing my wardrobe. Through the slightly open door, I heard something that made my heart freeze for a moment. Amma was talking to our neighbor, Auntie Renu, in the living room. I heard Renu's cheerful voice first. "Your daughter-in-law is so hard-working, always going to office." And then Amma replied. Her voice was soft, but her words felt sharp. "She works too much. A wife shouldn't be so busy. Home is more important." There was silence. Then Amma continued, "I don't know how long this will go on. I want her to quit before it affects the house." Quit. That word dropped into my chest like a small stone. I sat on the bed for a long moment, holding a folded curtain in my hands, unable to move. She wanted me to quit, and she wasn't hiding it from outsiders. That was the first time I felt hurt, not just misunderstood, not just judged, actually hurt. That evening, I decided to talk to Ryan. After dinner, when Amma went to her room, we sat on the balcony. The air was cool. A soft breeze touched my hair. I took a deep breath and said, "Ryan, I think Amma doesn't want me to work." He looked confused. "What makes you feel that?" I hesitated. "I heard her talking to the neighbor today. She said I should quit my job." He sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Mira, you know Amma has traditional beliefs. She thinks a stay-at-home wife is ideal, that's all." "That's not all," I said softly. "She's pressuring me. Slowly. Every day." He stayed silent. I tried again. "She told me working women forget their homes. She tells other people too." Ryan looked away for a moment. Then he said, "Just give her time. She'll adjust." His words were calm, but they didn't comfort me this time. Something inside me whispered, "Will she really adjust? Or will this become worse?" I didn't want to argue. I didn't want to create tension. So I just whispered, "Okay," and leaned back. But deep inside, something felt unsettled. Something felt wrong. The fourth clue came unexpectedly. It was small, almost innocent. One day, I reached home early because our office server was down. When I entered the house, Amma was talking to one of her friends on the phone. She didn't hear me walk in. I heard her say, "Working women have too much pride. They don't listen. It's difficult to control them." Control. That word echoed in my mind. I stood at the doorway, stunned, holding my handbag tightly. For the first time since marriage, I felt like I wasn't being seen as a person. I was being seen as a role. A role she wanted to shape. A role she wanted to control. I stepped forward, and she quickly ended the call. She looked surprised to see me home early. "Oh, you're back." "Yes," I said quietly. "Server problem." She nodded and walked to the kitchen. And that was it. She didn't explain. She didn't apologize. She acted like nothing had happened. But something had happened. That moment planted the first seed of fear inside me. Fear that this pressure would grow. Fear that this would affect my marriage. Fear that I might eventually break. And fear that she might never respect who I truly was. That night, I lay awake for a long time, listening to the quiet sound of the ceiling fan, watching the soft shadows on the wall. A question formed slowly inside my heart. What if she never accepts me as I am? I wanted peace. I wanted harmony. But something was changing in the house. gently but surely. And I didn't know how to stop it. The days that followed felt heavier than usual. Nothing dramatic happened, but the air inside the house felt different, thicker, more sensitive. I tried to stay calm. I kept doing my work, helping in the house, and smiling when needed. But deep inside, a quiet worry was growing. And then, the real reveal began. It started one Wednesday morning. I was sitting at the dining table, having tea before leaving for work. Amma was in the kitchen, stirring the sambar. Ryan was already dressed, ready to leave. When I stood up to wash my cup, Amma suddenly said, "Mira, why don't you take a break from your job?" I froze with the cup in my hand. She looked at me with gentle eyes, as if she were suggesting something good. "A break will help you rest," she added. "You can focus on the home." I turned slowly. "Amma, I don't need a break." She walked closer. "You are tired every evening. I can see it." "I'm not too tired," I said calmly. "I enjoy working." She sighed softly. "Mira, you are a married woman now. Life is different." Ryan stepped into the kitchen at that moment and said, "Amma, let her decide. She likes her job." Lata's face stiffened, but she didn't argue. She simply said, "We will talk about this later," and walked away. I glanced at Ryan, but his face was unreadable. That was the first time she said it directly to my face. But it was not the last. 2 days later, something happened that felt like a turning point. I returned home late because of an office meeting. The moment I opened the door, I could sense tension in the air. Amma was sitting on the sofa with her arms crossed. Ryan stood nearby, looking uncomfortable. I stepped forward slowly. "Amma, is everything okay?" She looked at the clock and said, "It is 8:45 p.m. Her tone wasn't angry, just disappointed. I nodded gently. "Yes, the meeting went long." She stood up and said, "This house is not a hotel, Mira. You cannot come and go whenever you want." My chest tightened. "I informed Ryan," I said softly. "That is not enough," she replied. "You are the daughter-in-law of this house. You have responsibilities." I swallowed hard. I didn't neglect anything. I just had extra work. She took a slow breath and said something that pierced my heart. "You are becoming like those modern girls who care only about themselves." My mouth opened slightly. I didn't expect that. "Amma, She raised her hand gently, stopping me. "Tomorrow, we will discuss your job properly." Properly. That word scared me, like a decision had already been made. I turned to Ryan for support. He looked down. And in that moment, for the first time, I felt alone in my own home. That night, after Amma went to sleep, I sat on the bed staring at the wall. My hands were cold. My mind was full. Ryan sat down beside me. "I know today was hard. Amma just worries too much." "About what?" I whispered. "About me working." "She thinks a working wife might not manage the home well," he said softly. I shook my head. "But I am managing. I do everything I can." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "I know. I see your effort. Just try to understand her feelings too." "I am," I said quietly. But who is trying to understand mine? My voice cracked slightly. His hand froze for a second. Then he pulled me close. I'm here, he whispered. I'll talk to her. But the way he said it, I could feel he wasn't sure. I didn't blame him. He loved his mother. I loved her too, in my own way. But sometimes love creates difficult choices, and I wondered which side he would choose if the choice became too big. The real emotional reveal arrived unexpectedly. It was a Sunday afternoon. I had taken a short nap after lunch. When I woke up and walked toward the kitchen, I heard soft voices inside. Amma and Ryan. I paused near the doorway. Amma's voice was low, but I could hear every word. She is too focused on her job. She is not giving enough time to the home. This is not how a good wife behaves. Ryan's voice was tired. Amma, she is trying. You know she helps every day. She comes home late, Amma said sharply. She is always on the phone. She talks to men in English. It is not good. I felt something break inside me. I never thought she would say something like that. Ryan sounded surprised. Amma, that is her work. She talks to clients. No, Amma said firmly. A wife should not talk to other men so much. She should not be so busy. She should not be so independent. Independent. The word felt heavy, painful, as if independence was a mistake, a flaw. Ryan said nothing for a moment. Then he said weakly, maybe she can reduce her hours? My heart stopped. He wasn't defending me. He was trying to compromise me. Amma replied softly, she should quit. That is the right thing. Quit. Again. The same word. Again. And this time, it didn't feel like a suggestion. It felt like a decision. A decision they planned to force onto me. My vision blurred for a moment. My throat tightened. I stepped back silently, went to the bedroom, and sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't cry. I just felt hollow, empty, and for the first time, I wondered if I was truly welcome in this house, if my dreams were welcome, if I was welcome. I sat on the bed for a long time, staring at the floor. My hands rested on my lap, motionless. I could hear faint sounds from the living room, cups clinking, Amma talking softly, Ryan clearing his throat. But inside me, everything felt silent. I wasn't angry. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even shocked anymore. I was simply hurt. Not the loud kind of hurt. The quiet kind that sits in your chest like a small stone you can't remove. After a few minutes, I heard footsteps. Ryan entered the room slowly. Mira, he said softly. I looked up. His face showed worry, maybe guilt. But he didn't know I had heard everything. I could have pretended nothing happened. I could have stayed silent, the way I usually did. But something inside me whispered, talk. So I asked gently, what did Amma say? He blinked, surprised. Then his shoulders dropped a little. She's just worried. I nodded. I heard the conversation. His eyes widened. You did. Yes, I said quietly. You said maybe I should reduce my hours. He opened his mouth to explain but stopped halfway. It was like he didn't know where to start. I kept my voice calm. I don't blame you. I know you are trying to balance everything. Amma's feelings, my feelings. He sat down beside me, rubbing his hands together nervously. I just want peace, Mira, he said. Every day I feel stuck between you and Amma. I know, I replied softly. I feel the same. There was a long pause. The fan hummed quietly. Then I asked the question that had been sitting inside my chest for days. Do you want me to quit my job? His head lifted slightly. No. I mean, not exactly. Not exactly? I repeated, my voice soft but steady. He sighed. I want you to be happy, but I also want Amma to feel comfortable. And you think my job makes her uncomfortable, I said. He didn't answer. His silence was the answer. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Amma's voice. She talks to men in English. She should not be so independent. She should quit. It felt as if my dreams and her expectations were walking in opposite directions, and I was standing in the middle, being pulled from both sides. In the morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I stood in front of the mirror as I tied my hair. For the first time, my reflection looked different. Not just tired, but unsure. Unsure of my place. Unsure of my value. Unsure of how long I could continue like this. The reveal came fully, painfully, the next evening. I came home from work, and the house was strangely quiet. No TV. No kitchen sounds. Just silence. Amma sat on the sofa, her face serious. Ryan stood near the dining table, looking uneasy. I placed my bag down slowly. Amma, everything okay? I asked. She nodded calmly. Mira, sit down. Something inside me tightened. I sat on the opposite chair, trying to breathe normally. Then she began speaking, her tone polite but firm. I have thought a lot about this, and I believe you should leave your job. I felt the words like a small shock in my chest. She continued, a family needs attention. A home needs care. A wife cannot have divided priorities. I spoke softly. I am not neglecting the home. She shook her head. You come home late. You are always on your phone. You look tired. This is not how a married woman should be. My lips parted slightly. I'm not always on my phone. I work. That is the problem, she said gently. You work too much. I turned to Ryan. He kept his eyes down. Do you also think I should quit? I asked him. He swallowed hard. I think maybe a break will help. For a few months. A break. Which wasn't a break at all. It was the first step to quitting. My heart sank. I looked at Amma again. Amma, I whispered, I love my job. It gives me confidence, purpose, and I support the family financially. She shook her head. Your duty is not to earn money. Your duty is to take care of the house. Duty. That word felt like a wall being built around me. And, she added quietly, it is not respectable for a married woman to talk to strange men every day, even for work. A breath caught in my throat. Her belief was deeper than I imagined. I spoke very slowly, trying not to let my voice shake. Amma. I don't talk to them personally. It is professional. It is harmless. It is my job. She looked away. It still feels wrong. And that was when the full truth revealed itself to me. She didn't hate my job. She feared it. She feared my independence, my confidence, my ability to stand on my own feet. She feared losing control. And I realized this wasn't just about work. It was about me becoming someone she didn't understand, someone she didn't choose, someone she didn't want. A silence spread across the room, heavy and suffocating. Then Amma said the sentence that broke my heart. If you want peace in this house, leave your job. My fingers tightened against my sari. For the first time, I felt a small, painful tear slide down my cheek. Not because of her demand, not because of the pressure, but because both of them truly believed I should give up who I was to fit into who they wanted me to be. And I didn't know what to do anymore. I didn't say anything for a long moment. I just sat there, feeling the room close in around me. Amma's words stayed in the air like a thick cloud. If you want peace in this house, leave your job. Peace. Such a soft word. But in that moment, it felt heavy, like a weight placed on my chest. I wiped the tear gently before it fell again. I didn't want them to see me break. In a quiet voice, I said, I need some time to think. Amma nodded as if she had already won. Ryan looked relieved, maybe because I hadn't argued. I stood up and walked toward our bedroom. Each step felt slow, like I was moving underwater. When I closed the door behind me, the silence felt safer than anything else. I leaned against the door, closed my eyes, and whispered to myself, I didn't do anything wrong. It was the first time I said it out loud, and it gave me a strange kind of strength. That night, I didn't talk to Ryan much. He sensed the distance between us, but he didn't try to reduce it. Maybe he didn't know how. In the morning, I dressed quietly, pressed a simple kurti, tied my hair neatly. As I picked up my bag, Amma said from the dining table, You will be home early today? I paused. I will try, I said softly. She nodded as if my answer mattered more than my feelings. Ryan walked beside me to the door. Before I stepped out, I looked at him for a moment. He didn't say anything. He just gave a small, uncertain smile. I didn't smile back. On the bus to work, the city looked different. Less friendly. Less familiar. I kept thinking about Amma's words, about Ryan's silence, about the way the house suddenly felt like a place with walls, not a home. When I walked into the office, my colleague Anya noticed my face immediately. Mira, are you okay? She asked. I gave a small, tired smile. Yes, just a long night. She touched my arm gently. If you need to talk, I'm here. Her kindness made my chest tighten. Sometimes strangers understand pain better than family. At my desk, I tried to focus on emails. Simple phrases. Simple English. Simple tasks. Thank you for reaching out. I will check and update you soon. Please wait for a moment. These words felt comforting, clear, predictable, unlike the confusion at home. Around noon, my manager, David, walked by. Mira, can you join me in the conference room? He asked. I nodded quickly, a little nervous. Inside, he closed the door and said, I've noticed something. You seem tense these days. His voice was gentle. I took a breath. I'm fine. just personal things. He sat down. You're one of our best communicators. If something is affecting you, we can adjust your workload. His support touched me. I shook my head. No, sir. I want to keep working. Good, he said with a warm smile. We believe in you. For a moment, I felt seen, respected, valued, something I hadn't felt at home for weeks. When I returned home that evening, Amma was chopping vegetables. She didn't look up as she said, "You're late again." I checked the clock. It was 6:50 p.m., just 20 minutes late. "I'm sorry, Amma," I said softly. "There was a small issue at work." She sighed loudly. "You cannot serve two worlds, Mira. One will always suffer." I felt a small pain in my chest. I hadn't hurt anyone. I hadn't neglected anything. But in her eyes, I was already failing. Ryan came home shortly after. He greeted me with a quiet hi, then glanced nervously toward Amma. That small gesture told me everything. He was trying to avoid conflict, trying to keep both sides calm. But in that effort, I was standing alone. After dinner, I went to the balcony to breathe. The night sky was clear. A light wind touched my face. I didn't realize I was hugging my own arms until I felt the pressure. My thoughts kept circling around the same fear. If I quit my job, will I ever get it back? Will I lose myself? Will Amma ever stop asking more from me? What will happen to my confidence, my identity? Then I remembered something my mother once told me. When a woman gives up her dreams, she doesn't become peaceful. She becomes silent. Silent. That word scared me the most, because silence was already growing inside me. Ryan joined me on the balcony after a few minutes. He said softly, "You didn't talk much today." "I had nothing to say," I replied. He leaned on the railing. "Mira, please try to understand. Amma is old-fashioned. She means well." "I know she means well," I said calmly, "but good intentions can still hurt." He looked down. "I don't know what to do." I turned to him, my voice gentle but firm. "I don't want to choose between my marriage and my job." "You don't have to," he said quickly. "But that's what this feels like," I whispered. "Every day, I'm being pushed a little more." Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer. For the first time in our marriage, I felt like we were standing on two different sides. Not enemies, but not teammates either. Just two people trying to hold on to something fragile, without knowing how. That night, before sleeping, I made a quiet promise to myself. I will not make any decision in fear. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know how Amma would react. I didn't know if the tension would grow. But one thing was clear. I had to protect the part of me that working had strengthened. My independence, my confidence, my identity. And I had to find a way to make Amma understand that my job was not against the family. It was a part of who I was, and I could not let that part disappear. Not without a fight. A gentle fight. A respectful fight. But still a fight. The next week came with an unexpected shift. I didn't know it then, but everything that happened would finally bring the truth into the open. Not just between me and Amma, but in front of people outside our home. And that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning when the crisis began. I was at office, replying to emails, when my manager rushed toward my desk. "Mira, we have a serious problem," he said. His expression made my heart skip. "What happened, sir?" "A shipment for an important client is stuck at customs. They're angry, very angry. We need to fix it fast." I stood up immediately. "Okay, I'll call them," I said. "No pressure," he added softly. "But we really need your English skills here." It was strange. The same skill I was criticized for at home was needed so urgently here. I walked to the conference room, took a deep breath, and joined the meeting call. "Hello, this is Mira speaking. How can I help you today?" My voice was steady. The client sounded frustrated. "Your team messed up the paperwork. This delay is costing us money." I listened calmly. I said phrases I had practiced every day at work. "I completely understand your concern. Please give me a moment to check the details. I'll make sure this is solved as soon as possible." My voice stayed soft, steady, patient. Slowly, the client calmed down. We found a solution together. He even said, "Thank you, Mira. You handled this very well." The call ended. My team clapped quietly. My manager smiled proudly. "You saved the situation," he said. I smiled back, a tired, grateful smile. But I had no idea how important this moment would become later. In my home. When I reached home that evening, Alma was sitting with two relatives, Ryan's aunt and her daughter. They looked cheerful, chatting with cups of tea. As soon as I walked in, the aunt smiled. "Mira, welcome home. How is your work?" Before I could answer, Alma said quickly, "She is thinking of leaving the job. It is too much for her." Her voice was sweet, but I felt the sting inside. The aunt looked at me in surprise. "Oh, you're quitting?" I forced a small smile. "I haven't decided anything yet." Alma's expression tightened. She added loudly, "Work is making her neglect the home. A wife should focus on family." The relatives nodded politely, but they didn't look fully convinced. The aunt asked kindly, "But Mira, do you like your job?" I answered honestly, "Yes, I really do." Before I could say more, Amma cut in, "She talks to men all day. It doesn't look good." My cheeks burned with shame, not because of her words, but because she said them in front of guests. The aunt's smile faded. She glanced between us, sensing tension. Her daughter whispered, "Auntie, that's normal. Everyone talks to colleagues." But Amma didn't stop. She continued as if she needed an audience. "Young women nowadays don't understand their roles. Once they get a job, they forget their duties." My heart thudded painfully. I stood silently, not wanting to disrespect her in front of guests. But I felt small, visible in the wrong way, exposed. Just then, Ryan came home. He greeted everyone and sat beside his aunt. "How is your lovely wife handling work?" the aunt asked with a kind smile. Before Ryan could answer, Amma said, "She won't have that job for long. We are planning something else." My heart dropped. Ryan looked uncomfortable. "Amma, please don't." The aunt raised her hand gently. "Lata, let me tell you something." Her tone was calm, but strong. I used to work before marriage, and after marriage too. My in-laws accepted it. My husband supported me, and our family is perfectly fine. Amma blinked. The aunt leaned forward slightly. A woman earning or speaking English or working with men doesn't destroy a home. Amma shifted uncomfortably, and the aunt added, actually, it strengthens the family. It brings respect. It brings stability. Amma opened her mouth to respond, but the aunt continued softly, if Mira likes her job, let her work. There was silence, a thick, heavy silence. Ryan's cousin added gently, Auntie, working women are not selfish. They work because they want to grow and also support the family. I felt a warmth spread inside me. For the first time, someone outside the house spoke for me, defended my dignity, my value, my choices. Amma sat still, her face stiff. She wasn't expecting this public disagreement. She wasn't expecting to be questioned. It wasn't disrespectful. No one raised their voice. No one fought. But the truth stood in the center of the room, for everyone to see, and Amma couldn't avoid it anymore. The aunt then turned to me. Mira, don't quit because of pressure. Quit only if you want to. Her kindness softened the ache in my chest. I smiled weakly. Thank you, Auntie. Amma didn't speak after that. She got up, went to the kitchen, and stayed there quietly. Ryan followed her later, but the damage was done. Not to her reputation, but to the belief she held so tightly. The belief that a working daughter-in-law was wrong. That evening, the truth became visible. Not only inside the family, but outside too. For the first time, I saw Amma doubt her own view. Not change it, not accept mine, just doubt it. A small crack, but a beginning. Later that night, when the guests left, the house felt strangely silent. I was in the balcony again when Ryan came beside me. He sighed. I'm sorry about what Amma said. It's okay, I whispered. It's not, he replied. You didn't deserve that. His words gave me a tiny bit of peace. But I knew this wasn't the end. The big change, the real turning point, was still waiting, and it would come in a way none of us expected. The next day began quietly. Amma woke up early as usual. I heard the soft sound of her footsteps in the kitchen, the clinking of steel vessels, the kettle whistling. Everything sounded normal, but the air was different. Not sharp, not heavy, just unsure. Ryan left early for office. I walked into the kitchen to help, even though I sensed Amma was avoiding my eyes. Good morning, Amma, I said gently. She nodded. Morning. Her tone wasn't cold. It wasn't warm either, just fragile. We cooked in silence for a while. Then she surprised me. Mira, she said quietly, don't be late today. I paused. Usually her tone felt like a warning. This time, it sounded more like concern. I'll try to be home early, I replied softly. She didn't say anything more. We moved around each other carefully, like two people trying not to break something delicate. At the office, I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept returning to yesterday's moment. The aunt's calm words, Amma's stunned silence, the small crack in her beliefs. Around noon, my manager entered suddenly. "Mira, the client from yesterday called again," he said. My heart jumped. "Is everything okay?" He smiled. "He actually wants to thank you," he said. "That lady, Mira, she handled everything with patience. Please convey our appreciation." I felt my cheeks warm. My manager added, "You really saved us this week, Mira." His words carried weight, not heavy like Amma's, but strong, lifting, empowering. I reached home earlier than usual that day. When I opened the door, Amma was sitting on the sofa, holding her phone. She looked up quickly, as if she had been waiting for me. "You came early," she said, sounding almost relieved. "Yes, Amma," I replied. "I finished work quickly today." She nodded and stood up. "Come," she said. "I made tea." Tea. A small thing. But in that moment, it felt like a soft offering, a small bridge. I sat at the dining table. The tea was warm, slightly sweet. She sat across from me, her eyes lowered. After a long silence, she spoke softly. "Mira, yesterday, I spoke too much." My heart slowed. My breath softened. I didn't interrupt. I just listened. She continued, "Sometimes, elders try to protect the house the way they know. But maybe my way is old." Her voice trembled a little. "I always believed a woman should stay home. I saw it in my mother, in my sisters. It felt safe, proper. But yesterday, when my sister-in-law spoke, I felt ashamed." She looked up slowly, her eyes looking tired. She said working women are strong, respectful, good for the family. I never saw it that way before. A deep softness entered her tone. "Mira, you are not wrong for working." A small, warm ache filled my chest. I whispered, "Amma, I never wanted to go against the family." "I know," she said quietly. Her eyes filled with a shine, not tears, just emotion. She continued, "I thought, if you work, you will forget us, forget the home. But now I realize, you are doing both. And you are doing it well." I looked down at my tea, blinking slowly. Her words felt like sunshine settling on a cold morning. She folded her hands on the table and said softly, "I am sorry." Just 2 words. But they carried so much weight, so much honesty. I felt something loosen inside me, a knot that had been sitting in my heart for weeks. I reached out gently and held her hand. "Amma, I never wanted you to feel forgotten. I want to take care of the home too." She nodded. "I know that now," she said. "And yesterday, after the guests left, I thought about something." "What?" I asked softly. She took a deep breath. "Your job saved a big problem at your office, right? You handled everything with English." I blinked, surprised she even knew. "Ryan told me," she explained. "He said everyone appreciated your work." Warmth filled my chest. She wasn't angry. She wasn't doubtful. She was curious, interested, open. He also said, she added with a small, almost shy smile, "that you speak English very well." I laughed softly through my nose. Amma smiled too. Just a small smile, but real. Then she said something I never expected. "Teach me some English, na?" My heart melted instantly. "Of course, Amma," I said, unable to stop my smile. She lifted her chin shyly and said in slow English, "How are you?" I laughed softly. "Very good. You said it perfectly." She smiled with the innocence of a child learning something new. And just like that, the walls between us began to fall. Not because I fought, not because I argued, not because I won, but because we met in the middle, with patience and honesty and one simple sentence: "I am sorry." That evening, when Ryan came home, he found us laughing softly at the dining table. He looked confused. "Everything okay?" he asked. Amma said proudly, "Mira taught me a new sentence." Ryan smiled with relief. "What did you learn, Amma?" he asked. She straightened her back, lifted her chin, and said in English, "Thank you very much." Ryan's eyes softened. He looked at me with quiet gratitude, and at that moment I realized something important. Sometimes change doesn't come from fighting loudly. Sometimes it comes from speaking softly, with patience, with love, and with truth. And sometimes the hardest hearts open when they see your strength with their own eyes. Amma had seen mine, and she respected it now. When I look back now, I finally understand something important. My mother-in-law was not my enemy. She was not trying to harm me. She was simply holding on to the world she grew up in, a world where women stayed home, where speaking to men at work felt unsafe, where independence looked like rebellion. And I was walking into her life with a different world inside me, a world where I believed women could work, earn, learn, and still love their families deeply, a world where English was not a sign of distance, but a tool to solve problems, a bridge to help others. We were not wrong, just different, and sometimes different needs time. Time to be understood, time to be accepted, time to grow. The day Amma said, "I am sorry," I realized something powerful. Respect cannot be forced. It can only be earned, not through anger, not through shouting, not through fear, but through patience, kindness, and gentle honesty. Now, Amma often asks me, "Mira, how do I say this in English?" And I smile every time. We sit together. We practice small sentences. We laugh at small mistakes. And the home feels lighter, warmer, more human. My job didn't break our family. It rebuilt us. It opened a door we never knew we needed. Sometimes we think peace comes from silence, but real peace comes from understanding. And today, when I leave the house for work, Amma says with a proud smile, "Come home safely, Mira." Her words are still simple, but they carry love now. A calm love, a growing love, a love that changed both of us. And now, I want to ask you something from my heart. Have you ever experienced a situation where your choices were misunderstood by your loved ones? How did you handle it? Tell me in the comments. I would love to read your story. Your experience may help someone else find courage today. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to my story.